Heavy security deployed across major roads and key installations in Kampala, Uganda, ahead of this morning's swearing-in of President Yoweri Museveni. Security personnel have intensified patrols in the city centre, while access to some roads remains restricted as preparations for the inauguration enter the final phase. Back home, we enter the second day of the Africa Forward Summit 2026 here in Nairobi, bringing together more than 30 African heads of state, global institutions and private sector leaders. Discussions are focusing on investment, innovation, climate financing and reforms to the global financial system.
Very good morning to you and welcome to the 12th day of May 2026. So good to have you this morning. Join us on the show. This is TV47 Breakfast. My name is Annie Odida. Good morning.
My name is Freddy Ndimuli. Yes, the second Tuesday of this month of May. A lot we can talk about, including the rains that are all over.
Yeah.
We jana kulinyesha. Hey, mpaka nikastuka. I've not seen rain. Ulilala throughout.
I started sleeping at 6 p.m. yesterday. Adi leo 3 a.m.
Where? I wish I could do that because the rains, and remember the Met Department issued a warning,
yes,
an advisory of increased rainfall across many areas of the country, including Kiambu and Nairobi, as well as the Mount Kenya region and the Lake Basin region as well. And this advisory stands till Thursday. So do expect that hiyo mvua itaendelea hivyo hivyo. Meanwhile, preparations for by-elections in Emurua Dikir continue. That will be happening on Thursday. But in the city, advisory ile traffic still remains. Yes. Parliament Road, City Hallway, ilikuwa inaitwa nini? Harambe Avenue, Harambe Avenue na Taifa Road in town, they remain closed to traffic, and members of the public are advised not to use those roads. They are only reserved for those who are attending the Africa Forward Summit, and they have to have a special pass for that. So do expect a bit of traffic issues within the CBD, but other than that, we'll be looking at the traffic elsewhere and linking up with our reporter Mudhoni Brenda on the streets later on.
All right. It is also International Nurses Day today, and we'll be having that conversation later on in the course of this show. It's also International Day of Plant Health and International Day for Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Awareness, TDA, being the 12th of May.
Chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yes. Wanasema, imagine waking up feeling like you ran a marathon in your sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, you're just waking up so tired, but it's never about just being tired.
You're always tired.
You're always tired.
And you can't, the doctor says there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're just tired.
Yeah. So labda wendo kwe checked. Chronic Fatigue Awareness Day. All right. Hashtag TV47 Breakfast. Hashtag
Story ni yetu. Remember, across all social media channels, TV47 Kenya, on Facebook, YouTube, where we're streaming live, and also on Instagram. On X, it's at TV47 Digital. You can tag us as well. My handle is at Freddy Ndimuli.
My handle is at Annie_Dida. Let's take a look at the state of the weather. All right. Kajiado is raining this morning. It's 17 degrees and highs of 24 degrees expected in Kajiado County today. Kakamega is also raining and there will be thunderstorms later on in the day. It's 19 degrees this morning. Highs of 25 degrees expected in the Kakamega County today. We take a look at Isiolo. It's raining as well. This morning is 21 degrees, highs of 27 degrees. That's as far as Kajiado, Kakamega and Isiolo counties are concerned. We take a look at other areas. Narok County is raining this morning and it's 14 degrees, highs of 21 degrees expected in Narok. Nakuru, it's 14 degrees as well, highs of 21 degrees today, and thunderstorms will be experienced later on in the day in Nakuru. And Kiambu, it's raining here, 17 degrees this morning, highs of 23 degrees expected today. And that's the state of the weather. Na sisi tuko Kiambu and we can confirm that it's raining this morning.
Nilikuwa na mwavuli.
Yes.
Leo utanyeshewa hata kama jana hukunyeshewa.
Lakini niko na mwavuli.
Yes. So utanyeshewa. Chunga sana. Alafu hizo viatu umevaa, hizo ndio zinaenda zikichimba mashimo kila mahali.
Uzuri kuna backup. Kama kawaida. Let's take a look at the GOtv day. Without questioning our choices, beliefs, and actions, life loses meaning. True fulfillment arises from self-reflection, conscious growth, and understanding our purpose in this world. Right, so you're encouraged to self-reflect every once in a while.
It's very important.
Very,
to understand your purpose.
Yeah.
So that you can know what direction you're taking going forward. Very nice quote to begin the morning.
Yep.
Right, let's come back and take a look at the newspapers today. All right, the Daily Nation has a totally different story away from what we've been seeing this past week, even the weekend. They've decided to go with a crime story on the front page, and this has to do with the killing of a priest. Yeah? Do they call them a priest?
Preacher.
A preacher from the Presbyterian Church, Reverend Julius Ndumia. So they say CCTV, phone data to nail priest's killers. On the night of May 3rd, a gang broke into a church compound and murdered Reverend Julius Ndumia of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, Taboga Parish in Nakuru. This is very close to where my home is. 5 days later, signal from his stolen mobile phone led detectives to 2 suspects. During the cleric's burial yesterday, speakers demanded that police make public CCTV footage that reportedly captures the gang, and which detectives told a court is still being reviewed. I wonder, mbona CCTV way doesn't really help detectives much? They say they're still reviewing na CCTV iko hapo. There's someone who showed me a clear picture of CCTV which marks, even captures someone's facial features properly. They say that detectives couldn't use it.
Why?
They could not use it in court. I don't know why. So sometimes you wonder, okay, CCTV tu ni ya kukuja kureview baadaye ujiangalilie watu wenye walikuwa napita hapo. It's very disturbing. So they say forensic detectives are also probing suspicious financial transactions in the days following the crime. Lakini hao waliiba simu pia.
Simu ya preacher. Wow.
Walimuua na wakabeba simu. Ni watu tu aina yao. Of course, the summit also features prominently on the front page of this paper. Macron's plea as France seeks new ties in Africa. A lot of criticism. I don't know if you've come across this.
Yes,
Wanasema France wamefukuzwa West Africa, ndio maana wamekuja East Africa. Many people are saying, okay, what business do we have talking to France anyway? Watatusaidia na nini?
A lot of questions.
I don't know if you share in that kind of skepticism.
Well, you know, I've also, I don't know if I do share in the same, sense of skepticism. I'm not sure, because maybe there's some goodies that will come out of this. But then I do understand the questions coming in. Sababu, they're saying that France are going into elections next year, just like us here in Kenya. So maybe if President Macron is going to be replaced, or maybe if President William Ruto is going to be replaced, then how long will these deals, they're like 11 MOUs that have been signed, then how long will they be sustainable in the long run, even if they would be in office after next year? There's also questions like there are other Francophone countries in Africa, then why Kenya? We have countries like Cameroon, DRC, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, then why Kenya,
why
an
not?
Anglophone country?
Because clearly, if you look at the hospitality industry, it's a boom.
Yes.
It's booming business. 30 heads of state, and that's not all. There are a number of senior officials, and you can imagine every president or every head of state akija, the entourage.
Yes.
It's at least 20, 25, 30 people. So thousands of people are in Nairobi. And of course, hotels are recording booming business, plus other sectors of entertainment and, Yeah. So you have to keep the visitors happy.
Absolutely. I think we might get some goodies out of this. So
we'll be seeking views of our panelists on State of the Nation, especially on this matter. Even as we continue discussing finance bill, and it's there on the front page, somebody pegs tax cuts for low-income earners to Iran war. Unakumbuka ile promise ya watu wenye wako na 50,000 and below. Initially alisema 50,000, lakini akasema taanza na 30,000.
Yes.
Au kwanza tax inaenda. Hakuna pay. Wapi? Amesema sasa watu walipigana Iran, hiyo tutangoja kwanza.
Oi, aki jamani. I feel like this is the least that they could have done now that election is just 14 months.
So vile mambo iko sahi, that's not tenable. And
your
one wonders,
dreams.
then why did you make that promise?
Yeah.
Was it necessary to make that promise? Na ndo swali watu ulizwa, why promise such a thing? Because it's huge. For people who earn 30,000 shillings, ukiwaambia sasa hakutakuwa na tax, unapata yote clean. Yeah. That's huge. And then unakuja waambia, hiyo ilikuwa tu ni story. Other quick highlights hapa: church wars, pastors in bitter fight for tithe, branches and land. And it's not just one church. Zungumzia kanisa tofauti. Yeah. Vile wanapigania land, tithe and branches. Nowadays, because if you open a church mahali moja, kunakuwa na branches mahali kwingine. Na pale juu, we have Gachagua and Kindiki clashing on Ruto's call to doctor. This is a case continuing at the Supreme Court. A fresh courtroom showdown has erupted between Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and his predecessor Rigathi Gachagua over claims that President Ruto called a cardiologist to inquire about Gachagua's health condition during the 2024 impeachment proceedings. So these are the stories on the front page of the Daily Nation. And the picture they've used today is that of President William Ruto and his guest Emmanuel Macron. Na tumeona picha mingi sana za hao wawili sasa. Yes. Nimeona mpaka Macron alikuwa kwa umbachi. Kwa balcony.
Akipika ugali.
Akipika ugali. Alikula?
Well, tukuonyesha hiyo part.
Hiyo ndo part tukuonyesha akikula.
Yes.
But I don't know, does he speak fluent English? Probably he does.
He does.
He does.
Macron, he does.
Okay. So nilikuwa shangaa wana communicate aje hivyo. Kule ndani ile kesi ya Gachagua inaendelea. France loses grip in West Africa, quotes Anglophone. So they're quoting Anglophone countries now. That's why probably tuko hapo. Lakini grip ya huko West Africa iliisha. Right, on the back page, Ruto, African youth can dominate sports globally. It's there on the back page once again, a picture of the two presidents, Emmanuel Macron and William Ruto at Taifa Hall in the University of Nairobi. Mambo ni mengi. Okot shines on her debut for Atlanta Dreaming WNBA. That's Kenyan-born basketball star. Anaitwa Madina Okot. That's the Daily Nation today.
All right, let's take a look at Taifa Leo now. Na tunaanzia hapo katika kongamano la Afrika na Ufaransa iko hapo mbele. You know, this is Africa Forward Summit, but you're making it look, okay, it's also Africa France Summit.
Actually, it's what you know, there's a Russia-Africa Summit. Yes. There's I think, US Africa Summit. Yes. India Africa Summit. Now there was France Africa Summit. Yes. Sasa wamekuja Africa akaona tusiite France Africa. Inaitwa Africa Forward. Lakini F iko pale.
All right, hii picha iko hapa mbele ya Rais William Ruto na mwenzake wa Ufaransa Emmanuel Macron wakiwasili katika chuo kikuu cha Nairobi jana kwa kikao cha mchana cha kongamano la Africa Forward Summit mwaka huu. Hafla hiyo ililenga kuimarisha ushirikiano wa kiuchumi, ubunifu na maendeleo endelevu. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa ndani wa gazeti hili.
Umerealize ni kama ni marafiki sana.
Sana. Yeah.
It's rare we see that kind of do we call it bromance?
Yes.
Ama camaraderie.
Bromance.
You know that? Camaraderie.
Lakini tusiende huko sana.
Tuseme camaraderie, wachana bromance for now.
Yes.
So picha zote zenye William Ruto amepiga na Emmanuel Macron wanakaa marafiki sana.
Yes.
Just handshakes.
You say that they're hugging.
Hugs. Kwanza uliona ile hug alipewa State House when he arrived. Initially President Ruto had wanted to extend his hand, then he realized no, hapana.
Yeah.
It's interesting anyway.
Yeah, so Taifa Leo also captures that story on the front page. Kuna swali uliuliza hapo, mbona wametoroka West Africa? I think that is also something that should we be focusing on that really?
Well, the Daily Nation talks about France losing grip there. Yeah. But it's because of this wave. You remember a year or two ago when there were a lot of coups in West Africa.
Yeah.
So many of those regimes that were friendly to France were toppled. So they need to make fresh friends, new friends in West Africa. Imekuwa ngumu sasa kwa wanakuja huku. It's easier to make friends in East Africa.
Okay. Bajeti imezungumziwa pia hapa mbele, nasema kwamba idara za NIS na ulinzi zapata donge. Idara hizo mbili za usalama zatengewa jumla ya shilingi bilioni 3 na 310 billion shillings kwa mwaka huu. Oh wow.
It's like half the budget here.
Half the budget of education. 310 billion shillings. There's a main story here, lakini we'll be back to take a look at it. Kule juu, mshahara wa wengi ni chini ya thuluthi moja. Ati mshahara wa wengi ni chini ya thuluthi moja. Sasa ushuru na makato mengi yanyoa mshahara hadi kuvuka kiwango kilichowekwa kisheria.
You know, there's a requirement in the labor laws in Kenya that you cannot commit through taxation and all other deductions more than 2/3 of a person's salary. But then again, with the introduction of affordable housing, the housing levy, SHA, and increased NSSF reductions, now people are taking home 1/8 and not 1/3, which is against the labor laws. Yeah.
Sasa now that we have this information, now what is the government doing about it?
Hiyo serikali ndo amenyoa, sasa tunawaambia ni.
Sasa wakishatuambia hivi sasa tunafanya aje?
Ni kujulishwa tu. Watu wanapeleka your take home inaenda ikirudi.
I know somebody will ask, so to do, okay, we have already that information. Fungu la 10 la geuka kiini cha mizozo makanisani. Tumezungumzia habari hiyo katika ukurasa wa mbele wa Daily Nation. But now the main story, the front page of Taifa Leo this morning talks about uasi ambao unaandama familia ya Odinga, na wapo watu 4 hapa katika ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili: Ruth Odinga, Edwin Sifuna, John Mbadi na vile Oburu Oginga, ya kwamba katika matamshi yaliyoonekana kuwalenga baadhi ya watu wa familia ya Odinga wiki jana, Waziri Mbadi alidai kwamba kuna watu wanaohisi kuwa na haki ya kuamrisha wengine eti kwa sababu wanahusishwa na mwanzilishi wa chama. Mbadi alisema ODM si mali ya jamii wala familia moja. Anasema kwamba mbali na kinara wa ODM Oburu kupuuzwa, Ruth Odinga ameanza kurushiwa makombora ya kisiasa.
I listened to that clip by CS Mbadi. Kajiuliza kama Raila angekuwa still around. Huyu jamaa angeweza ku raise his voice to that level. Alisema watu waache kujifanya just because you are a sister to the party leader ati sasa unaanza kutuamrisha hapa na pale. Alikuwa amekasirika sana. Na unajua when you talk about ukizungumzia kuhusu sister ni mmoja tu anajulikana. Let's listen, usiseme tumemsingizia. Hivi ndio Waziri Mbadi alisema.
Belong to a family. You know, we have a party where someone, because she is sister of a party leader, she thinks she can also order us around. You cannot. We have supported this party. I know Baba has been a very solid leader. We must now manage the transition. Baba is no more. This is post-Raila era. We must be candid, we must be forthright, and we must chart our way forward. You cannot keep us back. Baba said this. Baba did not say this. Where is that Baba now to give us the evidence whether he said or he did not say?
Where? Where is that Baba? Where is that Baba now?
It's his agitation for me.
Do you think he crossed the line?
He did. He did. That's not even a question of whether you think or not. He did. Evidence kwa kalatas.
But you know now he's an expert. He's no longer just a mere member of parliament or a chairman of the party. He's a CS. And I'm sure with that comes some level of power. He may feel that he has the authority or the gravitas to speak that way to party members. Don't you think?
No, that's out of order.
Umekata.
Let's stay guided. Let's be guided. That's Taifa Leo.
Right. Kutoka kwa gazeti la Taifa Leo tuangazie gazeti la The Star. Unfortunately, we do not have a physical copy, and today, being a Tuesday, The Star is not for sale. They focused on a story about growth of some sectors. So they say, the main headline says, Untold Story of Housing, Fisheries and Coffee Boom. The country's economy expanded by 4.6% last year, according to this paper. So they say coffee production went up from 49,500 to 51,400. I don't know if those are tons or what. Maize went up 45.8 million bags. Demand for LPG went up. Cat flour exports went up. Tourism, over 2 million visitors, went up 5%. Rice, the tons. Now, I don't know if it's tonnage for importing or tonnage for production. Fisheries went up 12.3%. Construction went up due to affordable housing, 6.8%. Now, this is according to The Star. Yeah, front page. I don't know kama mnakubaliana na haya, lakini of course it must be based on some data somewhere. The story is on pages 4 and 5. Unfortunately, we do not have a physical copy today. And kwenda kuangalia wanasema based on what data. Other highlights on the front page: fears of bribery in 2027 election as campaign funding rules stall. Hiyo maneno ya campaign funding, I don't know kama tutawaifikia hapo, because the ideal, kuna ile restriction. If you're running for president, you should not spend this much or beyond this much. If you're running for governor, you cannot spend beyond this much. And we are supposed to know hiyo pesa imetoka wapi. Lakini Kenya kweli, kuna mtu anajua pesa ya campaign utoka wapi? Wale urusha pesa hata kutoka juu kwa helikopta, wanasema pesa imetoka wapi? Anyway, mimi nasikia tu kuna watu wako na pesa mpaka wamenafungia kwa containers. Wamejaza container na container ya cash.
Yes.
Kenyan money.
Wengine wako nazo kwa nyumba zao.
Tutajionea mambo kweli. Minor wins as court overturns dismissal and awards him 600,000 shillings after accident. That's to a minor. That's interesting. Na pale juu football star Shem Lumumba, aka Coach OT. It's a special feature. He didn't let an injury cut short his dream, living it through others. And this paper, being a Tuesday, comes with a complimentary pull-out of MyGov for government tenders and job opportunities. So grab yourself a copy of The Star, which is not for sale today.
Fresh, independent, different.
Yes, that one.
All right, let's take a look at The Standard now. Miwani land suckers. Hawa wanaongea story nyingine very different. They call it a secret battle that a purported Mumbai-based businessman Nagendra Saxena, a ghost figure without a trace and who immigration says has never stepped into Kenya, occasioned a secretive Christmas Eve auction of Miwani sugar. Now, there's a push from powerful state figures to hand over 9,394 acres of communal Miwani land to Crossley Holdings, a private company. Now, Suba MP Karoli Omondi says, upon being questioned by Parliament, company directors claimed they could not remember to whom they paid 752 million shillings to acquire the land. Now, investigations done by this newspaper has uncovered internal letters, missing court files, forged documents, and anti-corruption findings, pointing to an attempt to privatize public land. And that letter has also been attached here on the front page of the Standard this morning. The ghost of Nagendra Saxena is also here. Anaulizwa ni nani huyu? Well, kuna watu hapa juu. You can take a look at that photo there on the front page of the Standard this morning. This story has been captured on page 4 and 5. Wanasema how Miwani Sugar's vast land became the target of a billion-shilling shadow battle.
Hawa ni members wa cabinet wako hapo juu?
Yes.
So they link in the cabinet to that saga.
Ndio maana nimewatuma hapo. Mwende mjione iseme.
Bold paper.
Yes, bold paper iko hapo juu. Haya. Tuangalie ndani. Page 2, they talk about 250 deals on the table as France expands Africa investments push. The Africa Forward Summit has positioned Kenya at the center of France-Africa strategy. Hundreds of business and government meetings target new partnerships in trade, energy, technology, and infrastructure. So we expect to see more today at that summit. Inaanza officially leo. Jana ilikuwa tu mbwembwe, rais wa Macron kuonyeshwa Nairobi and all that. But today now we are going to see more, conversations and hear more. Kama tutapata other MOUs maybe. Lakini 11 tayari ziko
zishasainiwa.
Ni mingi.
Ni nyingi.
Yeah. Page 6, Kioni rattles opposition leaders with Uhuru and Gachagua warning. That's another story on page 6. IEBC ready for by-elections, warns against electoral malpractices. This is ahead of Muradi Kir by-election on Thursday, the 14th of May. Ruto signs sweeping economic reform laws. That's another story captured on page 7. They say Income Tax Act seeks to rationalize the administration of capital gains tax, and Special Economic Zones Act seeks to enhance Kenya's competitiveness. Tukiangalia back page of the Standard, wacha nianze na tumepewa the whole back page. Arsenal glimpse title glory as
Sisi kama Arsenal.
Sisi kama Arsenal as VAR earthquake rocks Premier League. That Gunners are within touching distance of EPL title after 22 years wait. Arsenal will be crowned champions if they win their last 2 matches. Yes. So remaining fixtures. May 18, Burnley at 10 p.m. and May 24th, Crystal Palace 6 p.m. Tutakuwa na kuna Arsenal na kuna pia Manchester City. Ile ya 30th May ulisema nini?
Hiyo ni Champions League final. Ile iko Pushkash Arena.
Yes.
Budapest, Hungary.
Timu kubwa.
Right.
That's the standard.
Finally, bado kuna Business Daily, but kuna People Daily hapa haraka haraka, masuala ya siasa. Ruto's CSs torn between loyalty and political survival. They've put 8 of them there on the front page: Alice Wahome, Aden Duale, Kipchumba Murkomen, Hassan Joho, Wycliffe Oparanya, William Kabogo, John Mbadi and Opiyo Wandayi. Na umesikia vile John Mbadi ameongea. So they say as the 2027 succession battle gathers momentum, politically connected CSs are battling growing regional rebellion. Ndio maana wanakasirika sana. Succession rivalries, performance pressure and fears of fading into oblivion. Actually, these CSs look more concerned about their own survival than anything else.
Yes.
Wanashangaa because, okay, fine. One, whether or not President William Ruto comes back, are they guaranteed that they will still be appointed to the cabinet?
Yeah.
Hiyo ni shida.
Yeah.
It's no guarantee.
So they're trying to be as loyal as they can.
Sasa sijui nirudi kwa siasa, elective, what do I do exactly? That's
What
the People Daily. Because of time, hatutakaa hapo sana. That's the People Daily.
All right. Business Daily, KRA seeks identity of crypto traders in tax cheats pursuit. That's at show you on page 2. Africa France Summit has also been given prominence on the front page. It's here on page 12 to 13 as well. State eyes AI traffic lights with 1.8 billion shillings. And Iran war on the ticker. 3 billion shillings whole dim pay slips tax cut. That's what we're talking about. Kwa nini watu amtapunguziwa tax cuts. And apartment prices fall as supply surges, and that's the Business Daily.
All right, let's take a look at the regional ones, and we start off with Tanzania today. I'll tell you why. The Citizen in Tanzania talks about government's 11 priorities in 1.8 trillion shilling health budget. So people are now talking more and more about the budget. Remember, the budget process in both, not just both Tanzania and Kenya, even Uganda, inakuanga same time, around the same period. So usually even the presentation in parliament is on the same date. So the Citizen focuses on that. Mwananchi pia habari ni sasa kwa Mwananchi wamerudia ile ripoti ya Jaji Chande. Jaji Warioba, TLS wataja dawa ya kuliponya taifa. Ni ile ripoti ya Jaji Chande kutokana na matukio yaliyotokea baada ya uchaguzi wa mwaka jana. Tukienda Uganda, today is Museveni Day. Finally, after the elections in February, he's set to be sworn in as president today. And retired President Uhuru Kenyatta is actually in Uganda attending that event. So the new vision looks at the tasks ahead for President Museveni, 2026 to 2031. How oil and gas developed, succession planning, youth unemployment, managing debt, fighting corruption, infrastructure, poverty reduction, national unity. That's a new vision, just looking ahead. I remember he's been president for 40 years, since 1986, and now he is in his 7th term. And on the front page of the Daily Monitor, they say 40 and counting inside the presidential oath-taking, and family of 3 generations have been born under Museveni government. Yeah. Since 1986 till now, 3 different generations. Kuna watu wamezaliwa wakapata watoto na watoto wao wakapata watoto.
They don't know anyone else.
Hawajaisikia, wanasomanga hao wengine kwa gazeti. Yeah. So 7th term for President Museveni, swearing in happening today in Kampala. Those are the regional papers. Let's come back and take a look at the caricature. Uko na caricature yote pale?
Kuna nyingine niliona hapa ya Nyamu. Tuanzie nayo. It's on the Star. Sema sorry not sorry to a grade 10 learner hapo ambaye apparently she's sexualized in Senate. So hiyo apology ni kama it didn't.
I saw her reading the apology, akasema this apology has been drafted for me. I do not agree with it, necessarily agree with its entirety. There are sections of it I do not agree with, but because it's a requirement, I'll read.
Honestly.
It's the same thing Senator Oroba said. You remember? When she was ordered to apologize.
Yeah.
Same script. That's a cartoon on the Star.
Na yule apparently mwenye alimwandikia pia kwa hapa kwa caricature hapo nyuma. Na mdomo. As you can see on the Star.
All right. The next cartoon.
Tuangalie the one on the Standard.
The one on the Standard, kuna jamaa anabeba ghost wakipanda staircase. Africa bado tuko na hiyo shida. Wale Europeans, Africa France Summit, same criticism. It's like we're just after aid. Ni vile tu hatujaenda France. Remember last time France Africa Summit, enough African presidents rushed to France. for the summit. They've done the same to Japan and elsewhere. This time round, wamekuja Africa, lakini you can see the interest from even the African heads of state. Wamekuja hapa mbio sana.
33 countries?
30 countries heads of state, na kuna wengine heads of governments wako tu around. Wakisikia tu kuna aid kidogo hivi wanatoka mbio. That's the standard cartoon.
All right.
People daily
now. Hunter virus billion Kenyan shillings. Kuna mtu anasema trust me, that virus needs the billions. And there's a commentator here and I make reference to COVID billions, millionaires pale. From COVID millionaires to Hunter millionaires. Washatoa billions za Hunter virus.
So now the people who are looking to benefit or
from Hunter virus,
to profit from Hunter virus, whether or not it's a real threat, because I've seen the WHO has said hii haikuwa shida kubwa, msishtuke sana. Lakini kuna wale already angling are hoping like kama COVID ileta ikafanya watu mabilionea, kwa nini Hunter virus isifanye the same?
Typical African behavior. That's the People Daily.
Yes, finally the Daily Nation.
Now Daily Nation inazungumzia what the president said here. East or West?
I like facing forward. Forward summit, Africa summit, ndio hiyo. East or West, we face forward. With France. Anyway.
Na kuna watu hapo pia wako. That's the Daily Nation.
All right. Once again, a reminder of the traffic situation in the CBD, because for the second day the summit continues. France Africa Summit, or if you like, Africa Forward Summit. Parliament Road remains closed. Harambe Avenue, Taifa Road and City Hall Way remain closed to the general public. Only those attending the summit will be allowed access, and they need a special pass for that. Members of the general public have been advised to use other routes and follow police instruction. Ukiona unapita town hata kama unajua unaenda hivi na ofisi yako iko hapa, waambiwe enda hivi, tafadhali fuata police instruction. And we'll be looking at the traffic situation. I'm made to understand that Muthoni Brenda will be giving us an update later on. For now, probably we just take a look at the traffic situation across Nairobi, including the CBD. So I'm looking at the major highways, and all the way from Ruiru, a bit of traffic at Kahawa Sukari, Githurai, Kasarani Garden City Mall, and then a long stretch of yellow all the way from Allsops mpaka pale Utalii. Then it gets a dark maroon color, meaning there's a lot of traffic on Thika Road. The other major road yenye kuna traffic ni ile Eastern Bypass. The entire stretch ya Utawala sio kuzuri, and once you get closer to the KQ headquarters, it's also getting very busy. Outer Ring Road also building slowly. Jogoo Road, usual trouble spots, pale Makadara, nothing out of the ordinary. And because of what's happening in the CBD, you'll realize that even Machakos bus station, pale Mudhurwa, it's getting busy. Even getting into Haile Selassie Avenue, traffic is backing up. So, but all that is because of the Africa Forward Summit. Inaisha leo, musijali. From tomorrow, we're back to normal traffic. Mombasa Road is looking green. Ngong Road, a bit of traffic at Junction Mall, but all other major highways into the CBD are not so bad this morning. That's a traffic situation. Meanwhile, get interacting with us on our social media pages, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, where we're streaming live. Our handles there are TV47 Kenya. On X, it's TV47 Digital. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast, hashtag Story Yetu.
My handle is at Annie_Dida. Be sure to tag us so we can be able to sample your feedback in the course of this broadcast.
My handle on X is at Freddy Ndemoli.
See you after the break.
8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent na uza simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimeekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Nikikunyuma.
Oh my God. You left me. Nitumie ni live.
Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? Hi-Fi?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The
cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tamulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
We won't entertain divas. No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that our hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that. Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This is not a resort, my friend. This is a storage.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47.
Nairobi, where the hustle never sleeps and neither do the scammers.
Link Up, we are talking about something that's affecting all of us. We are talking trust.
We're diving into the campus life.
Stay fresh, stay safe.
Stay linked up.
My father used to tell me that our hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably.
Africa's innovative ecosystem was lauded during the first day of the Africa Forward Summit at the University of Nairobi, with President William Ruto and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron committing to support youth-led enterprises, digital innovation and the creative economy.
Africa must not stand at the margins of this global industry. Africa must stand at its center.
The French president, however, lamented that Africa and Europe face similar challenges in reducing technological dependence on major global powers like the US and China.
Relationships are changing, and thanks, and this is a good thing, for 25 years, France has been present in Africa, and this is very normal. And it's a positive thing. France is present because for too long, too many people, and we need to say this, in large companies have thought that we are French, and therefore we have entitlement to everything. We have the arrival of the Chinese, the Turks, the Americans, many others, and other Africans.
This even as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, speaking at the UN offices in Nairobi, pointed out that the African population needs a fair ground to showcase its potential.
Just borrowing costs and crushing debt burdens to a deeply unequal international system that reflects last century's power relations.
All right. So yes, one of the biggest discussions this week has to be the Africa Forward Summit, or if you like, France-Africa Summit, being hosted for the first time in Nairobi. Many would have expected that once it comes to Africa, probably one of the West African Francophone countries would play host, but this was Nairobi's chance, and advantage was taken by the host, President William Ruto. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. On my immediate left, we do have James Gakuya, who's MP Embakasi North. Karibu sana Bwana Gakuya, after a long time away from the show.
Thank you, Dimwe.
And Fwamba NC Fwamba, political analyst, is also with us this week. You were with us last week as well. It's always a pleasure having you in studio.
Good morning, Fred, and good morning, viewers.
Yes. We do expect one more person will be joining us as we move along. But there's a lot of criticism, Bwana Gakuya, of this kind of events. We've had so many of them where African heads of state are invited by major world powers for a summit. And usually it forces most of the heads of state to travel, like the Japan-Africa Summit, Russia-Africa Summit, and others. France-Africa Summit is one of those. But many people and the critics are saying that these are usually just mere talk shops with very little consequence. That yes, it may look big on paper, and many African heads of state may be able to secure their own individual personal interests, but at the end of the day, it really benefits African countries. Do you agree with that kind of criticism?
Thank you, Demori. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they're watching us, watching this morning show. And coming to the matter to the France-African ties that commenced yesterday. What I would say on the onset is that it depends on which areas that each and every partner is looking for. And especially when we come to what we call bilateral trade agreements. Bilateral trade agreements really matters to the interests of a particular country and what you want to reap from a particular destination. And especially last year, but one, I think the Parliament approved a bilateral trade agreement with the European Union, which, if you could have checked about it, it has a lot of benefits from within, because areas of horticultural products and even what you call manufacturing products got their way into that particular package. And if that particular window can be spent well by those who understand what is intent to that particular agreement, it is purely very good and a big plus to big gains to the locals here. But that really is those who understand issues matters to do with exports. And even in these particular negotiations that actually France has come through with, yesterday I did witness that part of the reap that we can reap from them is that remember that destination. We are not largely part of our local productions, export most of our local production, and especially areas like tea. And if we can open up what we call tea export destination in France, and those are the products that can be allowed by that particular nation, I think it's a plus. But what matters is in what we call a trade, is what we call trade balance, because in business, you need to have what we call balance of trade, because you don't require to be always importing and you are not exporting. And especially where I do cite matters to do with China, where most of our traders take dollars to China and they go empty-handed, and they come back with what you call heaps of goods. Sometimes you realize that those containers comes here, but they exit empty. And that tells you that balance of trade is not very well taken care of. Okay. So each and every trade agreement, you require to, as a country, to have sat down, have assessed yourself, have known this particular destination, what is our interest, so that in that particular loom when it comes, it is not just in papers, but in reality, it's nowhere. So you need to know what is your take, what do you want to gain from this particular trade, and what are your objectives? Or then what in this one, I would say, yes, the France is trying to open into Africa. And I would say that us as a nation, as a Kenya, we were not part of the France colony. But we have seen even South Korea and many other developed countries are trying to find their stake in Africa. Okay. And therefore, you cannot tell France also to look for a stake. But as you commit yourself, it is very important to have done your study, known exactly what you want to earn from that aid, so that by comparison with what they also want to earn from this side, then you can have a balance of trade. Okay. I overhand that probably they could want to venture in what we call commuter railway within the city, and that expansion of rail within the city, to me, is a big plus. You know, the city we are in is quite congested, and any big plus that can give us a plus of decongesting the city is can be well taken care of. So what we need to see is how those particular agreements and promises are going to be yielded. So we're gonna wait and see, because many agreements had been signed. Remember, they are in books, but they are not in existence. Yes. Yes. Remember, we have AGOA in America, where that particular window, as a nation, we are not utilizing very well. We are utilizing about 12% of it, and it's quite wide. So it depends. After that signing of that bilateral trade, what is our momentum, and what do you expect to earn out of that?
There are those who are more concerned about the optics of having one leader from Europe or anywhere else, Asia, summoning or inviting, let's use that word, inviting African heads of state into one forum, just to talk to them. And people wonder, okay, fine, each of these comes or is a representative of a sovereign country. Why should they appear to be paying homage to one leader from Asia or Europe? Do you see any validity in these kinds of discussion, given the fact that they tend to appear more domineering? An example is being given of that session at Taifa Hall yesterday, where the French president talked about lack of respect from those attending the event because there were mamas in the crowd. Imagine if this was in France, what kind of treatment would they go through?
Fred, it's not happening for the first time, but there's something very special about this summit. I would want to compare it with the Bandung Conference of 1955, where countries from Africa and Asia came together, but they came together on the basis of political independence and fighting for sovereignty. At that time, there was that kind of Cold War. There was the Eastern Bloc and Western Bloc. So for their own advantage and agitation towards getting independence and getting free, they established some kind of relationships. Interestingly, today I want to give credit to President William Ruto for having this high-profile diplomatic venture, because unlike the Bandung Conference, this summit in particular, is focused on Africa's interest and Africa's economic development. Like we're talking about agriculture, which is said to be the backbone of our economy. We are talking about collective interest as African countries. For example, we've seen situations whereby international loans or debts to Africa are considered high risk, yet we are the biggest trading bloc that anyone can ever engage with. Therefore, this advantage of being in some situation of being unaligned of sorts gives us an advantage in terms of competitive advantage, because we can engage with China as far as our interests are concerned, and engage with France or the United States, so that there is no monopolization of interest. There is no situation whereby one country can think that it can over-domineer the interests of Africa. So we have a higher bargaining power. And then there's also that advantage that France, facing challenges within West Africa, especially with the countries like Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, they find now this new situation that they'll have to engage other countries. So for us, we have an advantage whereby we are dealing with the West, the traditional allies like the United Kingdom and the United States. Then we are also having China as a trading partner. Remember, when you talk about the Belt and Road initiative, China counts on Kenya as the main entry point into Africa. So we are actually at the center of many operations from different countries. So we're like the most prestigious client on the market. Therefore, that gives us a very strong competitive advantage against other countries or against those people that we're engaging with. Therefore, I think President William Ruto has made a very good move in ensuring that Kenya hosts this. And again, he has also been on the forefront fighting for Kenya to have a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. And that means a lot. And by engaging one of the 5 strong powers of the United Nations Security Council, which is France, you have an advantage of someone who is likely to fight for you to get that seat, because Africa is talking about having 2 seats. And obviously, if those two seats are given, then there's a likelihood that Kenya will get that seat. And it's very advantageous to us as Africa, and particularly to us as Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me welcome Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui to this conversation. Karibu sana.
Thank you,
and I'm sure your idea about this kind of relationship with Europe and other countries is something we'd want to hear. Because critics who see this as just another attempt at imperialism, the patronizing nature of this heads of state from, let's say, first world countries, the way they look down on Africa, and calling this group into one room and ordering them around, telling them it's lack of respect when you mama around and I'm speaking. Do you see this as an advantage to Kenya, that we get to host this summit?
Absolutely not. Excuse me. I'll go beyond that and say the attitude is condescending. And any African who does not study the history of colonization stands the risk of what Fwamba is there applauding the likes of William Ruto, a typical puppet of the colonizer in the spirit of neo-colonialism that France is engaged in. Why do I say that? Lobengula, he of Matabeleland, Zimbabwe, was duped by Cecil Rhodes by means of an agreement. And Cecil Rhodes was very crafty, and he comes over to Lobengula and he says that, look, all that we want to do, and they came with gifts, similar to Macron here, who comes and says that we have deals. And I want to remind Ruto and his advisors that there is a law that we have called Treaty Making and Ratification Act. You cannot engage in committing the country in a manner that is commensurate with a treaty, and you haven't followed that law, and you haven't involved the Kenyan people, and you commit the Kenyan people to long-term commitments of a financial nature, of a business nature, that they haven't even been consulted about. And let's remember, Macron is exiting in a year, just like Ruto is. So both have something in common. They don't have the future of Africa in mind, let alone their respective countries. And so, having said that, it seems to me that the same pattern that was used and employed by the colonizers during Cecil Rhodes and the invasion of Matabeleland, what now today is Zimbabwe, is the same script. Look at the politicization of language. Cecil Rhodes comes with an agreement that is written in English. And Lobengula had absolutely no idea what it was. So he was relying on the translators, who of course had been bought bicycle roads, just like Ruto is here. And look at the condescending attitude. Macron comes with his band of neo-colonizers who are saying, oh, you know, we will have AI. It is the same thing, that you are at this point of disadvantage. You don't have much input on this demonic thing called AI, and that's not my language. That is Elon Musk who says that AI is summoning a demon. It is them who say that. That's their own language. So before anybody judges me, I'm using that. So they come with that, and the African here is being duped that we're looking at the future of Africa. And he even dares say that, you know, I'm not looking east or west, I'm going to look into the future. Come on. This is what the African Union should be having as a conversation with African leaders. Ask yourself, why would Mali, Niger, and Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast sever and completely cut away from the militarization that France has had in West Africa? And they're coming here to negotiate with you about a similar agreement. There must be something wrong with you. These hypocrites come and tell you that, you know, we are environmental friendly and we are going to be zero grid, you know, stuff like that. Ask the Niger people, what did France do to the environment? The hue and cry is that Niger comes and extracts the the uranium for its nuclear facilities in France, and those people of Niger are left to clean up the environment. They don't clean up, and they have absolutely no electricity, they themselves. So this is self-enrichment. It is the same spirit of extraction. And look at the attitude of Macron and his people. They come there and they want to speak French. This is no different from Lobengula. So, and Ruto is there applauding, and look at the shame of having a dinner and they're having bow ties and tuxedos. Excuse me, I thought we were supposed to be in Africa and having.
Actually, surely. Should we start wearing
No, I'm saying
you're in a very good suit as well.
No, absolutely. No. I'm not supposed to be like this because of the formality of the court. I mean, but look, given the chance, I would, don African attire.
Okay.
Yeah. But let me finish by saying this. The tragedy that we are accosted by is having brainwashed so-called African leaders who just seeing a script that they are given because they have failed to appreciate what it is to be in positions of leadership, to lead their people. And here we are talking about sports, AI, and you're sitting on minerals that these people are eyeing. That's what they want.
I'm more concerned about the optics, even as you give me your feedback, Fwamba, because the way it looks, wouldn't it be better if at all African leaders met through the ambit of the African Union and probably send one representative to go have this meeting with the French president instead of having the French president as a god somewhere and everyone else, all African leaders are going towards him? Don't you think that it looks bad, even if we get to host it in Africa?
First, I'll get back to what Wakil Kenyanja has tried to say.
I'm not trying to say, I say
what he's saying is actually majoring on minors and minoring on majors. Because historically, if you're looking at Lobengula and those circumstances of that time, these people are not even able to read and write. But today, we are dealing with people who are well exposed. The society is very different from even the 1950s and 1960s, when France was colonizing or stopping colonizing the Western African countries with very bad deals around that time. Right now, Kenya as a country we refer to as a medium economy country is developing in its own right, and the world is generally very well exposed. Therefore, there's no point at which we can sign a deal that is counterproductive to our country. Therefore, I also want to look at the advancement of technology. You saw the president mention that Kenya is now manufacturing phones, and it's not the first time that information is coming out. Only that for the ignorant and the uninformed, they'll always look at what is said and unimaginable as something that is impossible. But that's happening. If you go online and just Google how many phones Kenya has manufactured, you'll see that. There's something called MCOP or something that those phones, I think in 2024, they indicated that about 1.5 million phones had been manufactured here in Kenya. But people laughed at it and thought it was lies. So we are a dynamic society. We are not where we were. Remember, like in 1981, when America was launching the space shuttle Columbia, some members of parliament from Kenya went there, and others from Japan and other countries were present when that launch was happening. And to them, it was like magic those days. You know, to a layman, science and technology is like magic or demonic or those other terms that are used about those people who do not know what exactly is happening. But different from those times, at least right now when you talk about technology, when you talk about AI, we also have an idea of what is happening. We might be not so much advanced like the United States or other countries that claim to be first world, but we know exactly what is happening, and we know that if we are on the right journey, we are doing the right things right now, at some point we'll also develop. And we cannot live like an island. You know, all these bilateral engagements are based on understanding each other. It's a give and take kind of situation. So you cannot just resign to your fate and say that since you are in Africa, you have your minerals underground, you do not want to engage with another country because you are suspicious of everybody. If you are suspicious of anyone who is coming to engage you, then it means that you are never going to develop.
What is in those agreements?
Those agreements they are done by the experts. You cannot say that every person here and there should know or should understand what is there, because we do not have equal capacities of understanding what's in those agreements.
All right.
And therefore, that's the reason as to why we go to elections, to elect people to lead us.
Okay.
They are supposed to make decisions on the basis of the mandate we have given
and
them.
You've clearly avoided my question, so I'll direct it to Bwana Gakuya here. And I hope Bwana Gakuya will give me the answer, because it's even in the format of this conference or summit, you may call it that it looks a bit off balance. That yes, you talked about the bilateral agreements and everything, but many people watching are wondering, why should we go the way we are going as a group to France or to Japan or to any other country? Because we still have an opportunity to have those bilateral discussions at state-to-state level, Kenya and France. It's the optics of it and how this format looks, that one leader appears elevated and these other people have to come to him. And I don't know why people are avoiding this question.
In fact, what I would quickly respond to a question is that it is not casted on a stone that you must negotiate a bilateral agreement in a pool. It is acceptable to negotiate, because like now the bilateral agreement that we signed with Europe, we signed Europe versus Kenya, but not even as an East Africa, not even as an Africa, but as an individual country. So it's doable. It's only that the nature of this particular conference and the manner it was arranged, probably the French wanted to win a big number of African leadership, and therefore when they are in a pool, probably it's less cost. But I would say personally that, as I said there before, it is a choice of every single reader, because it depends with what is on the plate. Because when you move to this kind of serious discussions, what you need to put on the table first is your interest. Because you cannot just rush to sign things before you know what you are going to leap from the other side. And that's what I said in business. There is that what we call balance of trade. You must assess what is my gain on the other side, so that I agree the entry of the other party to my side. And that way, before you sign anything, you must ask yourself, where do you stand? Do you stand to be the loser, or do you start to be the gainer in this particular game? Because it is not casted on a stone, and it's not by force. So therefore, at any stage that in fact this kind of negotiations are put on table, I think the genius countries must put their interest first, and before you cast any single vote, you must assess the deal and be convinced that the deal is doable and has value to your side.
It looks like the assumption is that all Africans have the same problems and we share all the problems in one pool. Allow me to finish
answering your question.
I'll come back to you, but let's take a short break. You're watching TV47 Breakfast. We'll continue this conversation and others after the break.
8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Ikikunyuma.
Oh my God. He left me. Nitumie ni live. Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? Hi-fi?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tangu lini kero umeka kwa beauty product?
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
We won't entertain divas.
No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that our hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in East and Central Africa.
All right, welcome back. You're watching TV47 Breakfast on TV47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. I'm still here with James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, political analyst Fwamba NC Fwamba, and Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui. We want to finalize that conversation about how it looks that France, even if we're hosting the president in Kenya, it would appear is summoning everyone else, all African leaders into one pot, and you share, because probably we share our problems. And that's a question I directed to you first, and you ignored it.
Briefly, my perspective, Fred, is that it's much better bargaining together. You know, for so many years in the past, Africa has been taken so much for granted. So when you come together as heads of state, you have a higher bargaining power and negotiation power and authority when you are dealing with these other
But when did we agree that these are the problems we face as African leaders, so that they can be presented and we can negotiate as one? That's the question.
It's important that all those heads of state are around so that they have first-hand information on how to deal with all these countries. So it's an advantageous arrangement, as opposed to just one person going and being pressed down to give in concessions that are not beneficial to our people.
All right, Wakili.
I don't know how Fwamba can justify this intrusion into the sovereignty of African nations by a tiny European country called France. Really, I mean, this is a shame of the African that he's still having this inferiority complex. And you could see Ruto was there. It's like a scorecard that he was giving the colonizer, the neo-colonizer called France. And it's like, and I'm sure in today's meeting, he's going to be out there spewing the same sort of stuff that he's been given the script to say about, oh, we want a change in the international financial infrastructure. And tomorrow, and the IMF is seated there, and he will not lambast the IMF. And look, the shameful bit of it is that the G20, and he's supposed to be there in replacing Cyril Ramaphosa from South Africa, because the US saying that, look, Ramaphosa, you're doing genocide of white people in South Africa, the farmers, and therefore we don't want you in this meeting. Oh, you know, Ruto, you need to show up. And he's out there, you know, very happy. For what? For what? He should have said, if Ramaphosa is not showing up, I'm not going to show up. He should have the mettle of the African leader and take the African pride to those international fora. But he's earlier.
He was the biggest critic of this kind of format.
Absolutely. And then you could see that there was a time that they were invited in London. What happened? They were shuttled in a bus. And it was so shameful, that embarrassing, I should say. And he was out there criticizing that. Was that a lesson? He seems never to have learned. And you go to the US in those meetings and they are, you know, stuck in some place. There's no red carpet and there's nothing. This is the embarrassment time after time, unrelenting, that the African leaders are subjected to. What do they think that the African nations, the African themselves, they lead, feel? And he's out there projecting, oh, we want to be like Singapore in France. France is depending on Africa to thrive. 30% of the uranium that fuels the electricity in France comes from Africa. Niger is right now asserting its muscle, economic muscle, and saying that, look, we don't want you here. But look at Comoros, for instance. Is Comoros a first world because France took over? Is Central African Republic a first world? France needs an expansion of space because it's CF franc, the monetary unit there, is being rejected in West Africa. And so they need the expansion of space. And this is what these people are blind to. And then they're being told, the cloak of, technology, development, and all of that is what is being used to peddle these lies. Neo-colonization is at the face. Let's strip that mask off and tell France, no. We have our dignity. And look, we don't. If I were the president, I would be telling this Macron, look, you need to pack up and go. You cannot come to the University of Nairobi and denigrate my people and behave as though this is your domain. Look, we are not an outpost of France. But look, what does he do instead? We have Talanta Stadium. We will have the sports and all of that. Same stuff. The cowrie shells that the slave trader came and gave the African chief to sell off the African wealth. And like I said, Lobengula is a lesson that Ruth has never learned.
The problem in West Africa is historical. And therefore, it will be wrong for us to compare the problems in West Africa to the current situation.
How is it historical?
We cannot ignore the fact that
those are
France is not enjoying that kind of relationship.
The relationship between France and those West African countries.
How is it historical?
We were colonized by the British. They were colonized by the French, and they had those conflicts based on the colonial background, including their money being centered in Paris as opposed to our own economy here that is independent of that.
All right. And that's where we dock, at least on that conversation about the ongoing Africa Forward Summits. Definitely a boom for the hospitality industry, with thousands of dignitaries and other guests and entourages that have accompanied their heads of state to Kenya. Enjoy the hospitality that we offer here in Kenya, but criticism nonetheless on this format of meetings between superpower leaders and African leaders, all in one forum. We'll continue that conversation even as we continue to unpack some of the deals that have already been signed at the summit. Now, yesterday, the National Assembly, and I want us to move to discussions around the budget-making process. The National Assembly issued a 2-week window through which members of the public can share their memoranda and comments, opinions, and reactions to the proposed finance bill of 2026. Let's watch this story just to set the stage on that discussion.
Monday afternoon, Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi sought to clarify on what government says has been misunderstood.
And let us engage constructively. I hope this year will not be a repeat of last year, where I was asked so many questions on fake bills.
Among the loudest concerns, the proposed taxations of mitumba imports that has sparked backlash. Under the proposal, 5% of the customs value of imported mitumba goods would automatically be treated as taxable income at the point of importation. Now traders warning of rising prices and shrinking profits.
We deem 5% of custom value of imported goods, whether clothes or whatever it is, as profit. 5% as profit. And then we tax that 5% at 30% to give you 1.5%. And it becomes the final tax. No one chases these business people again for other taxes. This came from the Mitumba people. It was their request.
Also of concern has been the proposal of tighter taxation and monitoring of betting platforms, crypto transactions and digital payments. Online, this has been seen as government widening taxation, while the cost of living remains painfully high.
There are people who buy property in this Nairobi. They buy property elsewhere in this country. They have income that they cannot even explain. But because they are hiding around data protection, what, a lot of kizungumingi hapa, now they force Mama Mboga to pay for them taxes to drive their four-wheel drive cars on those roads. It is not fair.
According to Treasury, these are rapidly growing sectors that must begin contributing more revenue to government coffers.
The problem with this amendment, which has been fought over the years, are these people we call money launderers. They are the ones who are fighting this thing because they cannot justify their income.
Proposed 25% excise duty on mobile phones has been interpreted by many as yet another blow to already strained households.
You are only going to be able to start paying tax on a phone that you are using, not phones that are kept in stores by business people.
And as debate over the Finance Bill 2026 intensifies, Parliament has opened the Finance Bill 2026 for public participation, setting the stage for national debate over proposed tax changes. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Yes, indeed. We are in that period, that season where we discuss issues budgeting, and by 30th of April, the National Treasury had already submitted full budget estimates to Parliament, including detailed revenue estimates, expenditure estimates, and of course the Finance Bill. That's the tax measures, of which now it's opened the window for scrutiny of the same and for memoranda to be sent. We have a member of the National Assembly with us. Bwana, the past 2 years, since 2024, we've seen heightened awareness or increased awareness around the budget-making process. Yet the focus on the finance bill still remains. Maybe not to the level that we saw in 2024, but even right now, people are not looking at the budget estimates as much. People are not really concerned about that. They're just focused on the taxation measures. Do you believe that awareness or knowledge about the budget-making process is at that level where we had it back in 2024? Or have we simply gone and forgotten about the budget because we know we can't change anything either way?
Yes, Dimoli. On the outset, let me say that the budget-making process has those two areas because one, you have your budget proposals and your budget targets. And number two is that the finance bill is there to guide you where to get those targets from. And what I would say is that I have not seen a serious education onto how to deal with these processes. In every financial year, there is always a public participation, and especially that it is now this session now, when I think Nairobi will be tomorrow. And the public participation that takes place sometimes is very short and does not give enough people and time to read these particular proposals and understand, and therefore you are able now to respond to in the right time. And also number two is that the manner in which the public participation sometimes is held is that views that come from the people are not taken in what we call on a wholesome. Because the manner and the reason why this public participation is to give people time and time to respond and also give their view. And if that particular room is not spent to the manner that it's supposed to be, it means you have robbed the public their chance. So I would wish that this time round, the areas, because the Treasury has already tabled the estimates, they have also tabled the proposals of a finance bill. If Kenyans are ready enough, they will ought to have gone through these proposals so that by the time of this public participation, whatever, because it is taken to the regions, then they can be able to respond. And what should be done is that the voice of the people should be taken serious. Because if the people says this is not acceptable, I believe it should not be forced to the people, to the throne of people, because once you go that election and tells that you force the throne, you force the throne of the people, but when they say no, then it becomes chaotic, and therefore I think time enough is supposed to be given so that people can be able to respond well to any particular procedure which is on place, so that like areas that of taxing. Like now, the element of Mutumba, people should understand is where are we coming in? Is it another route of hiking the prices? Because to the level of where we are in terms of life, the living standards that we are in, it's that the economy is very, very, very hard, and people are living in hardship, and to strain them more. Even a bit of a coin, it means that you are totally killing them economically. And therefore, I would not expect that, in fact, we should push an inch to where people are in terms of taxes. Taxes should come to narrow down, but not to climb anyhow. And that's it. But public is their turn, because they are given a room, and I would expect that in their public conversation, they will air their views. And number two is that those who will collect the views should implement the views as they should be.
Yes, but are Kenyans interested in this process? Because that's my concern. Of course, in 2024, there's a lot of interest, especially in the taxation measures from the Gen Z. But last year, we did not see as much interest. Coming to this year, there's very little conversation, even online, about the budget-making process. It's only the media trying to highlight one or two things here, the Mitumba, mobile phones, and probably even reminding Kenyans that the Treasury CS had actually promised some tax relief for people earning below 30,000. That is not contained in the finance bill. Do you think that probably there's a gap in as far as understanding this process by the common mwananchi?
Of course, Fred, since 2010, as we promulgated the constitution that we are using right now, there's some progress that has been made as far as the issue of public participation is concerned, as I suppose in Article 10 of the constitution under values and principles of good governance. And to make a very specific point, since the coming in of Honorable Badi as Minister for Finance, there's been some level of awareness around the budget-making process, taxation, and generally the physical health of the country. Because him having that political background has made him to be very well versed with the kind of expectations wananchi want. For example, you remember last year he was seen at Jivanji Gardens engaging the people, something that has not been happening in the past. And people are not so much agitated right now because they have some kind of exposure and level of involvement and level of trust that not exist in the past. Like right now, what we have just seen on the screen right now, we've seen him breaking down the details, including the agreements they had with the people of the Mutumba traders about the percentages of the profit and the taxation based on the profits. And that was based on public participation. So the reason as to why there is not much agitation right now is because Kenyans have been involved in the process. And I want to agree with the Honorable Gakuya that going forward, we need to have a more elaborate way of public participation, especially on the issues concerning Kenya's welfare. For example, the issue of taxation. We need to have a greater window of public participation in the budget-making process until the time the budget is ready. Again, I would want to talk about this much concern about people saying, okay, there are challenges here and there, economic challenges at a very personal level. They are there, yes. But at the end of the day, we have to raise the taxes. The only thing that needs to be done, and I think the minister has explained and is working on that, is we need to live as per the principles of public finance articulated in Article 201 of the Constitution, that it must be equitable, fair to everyone. And that is why every person who is involved in this process is supposed to have an innovative mind, so that you do not hurt those ones who are already so much afflicted by taxation, and then give a lot of open space for those ones who are enjoying. So the equitable approach, like what he has just mentioned on the screen here, is very important and very comforting to every Kenyan whether you are at the high level or at the low level. Because ultimately, for us to run our country, the first point of revenue is tax collection.
All right. There's the issue of debts, and a lot of these things many Kenyans don't get to understand. You just hear there's debt, there's debt, there's debt. That is part of the discussion here because there are fiscal deficits, given the kind of revenue KRA collects and the expected estimates in the budget estimates from Treasury. Do you feel like this is intentional? That the lack of interest from Kenyans is because they understand very little about even issues around debt. A lot of these decisions are made and some of them are not through the budget making process, and very few people get to understand this.
I agree. I mean, this is the point that I was making earlier, that Ruto goes and sits on a desk privately in some secret room, probably in State House, with Macron or whoever is representing them. And they sign off agreements. And we hear that, oh, you know, Kenya has a loan of such and such an amount owed to France. They are in parliament. They don't interrogate. Like now what I've expected, for instance, that Ruto's 11 agreements that he has signed with France should be tabled before parliament for us to know and interrogate. So the budget making process is more like plugging those holes than seeking or securing the development of this country. You tell me, when they have taken the climate change religion and now brought it to the Kenyan people and told you that, look, you have a plastic item, we will charge you 10%. Now, in this taxation bill, 10%, meaning that woman in Korogosho or in Mathare on Kibera, that poor person who buys that bucket for 1,000 shillings will have to add 100 shillings more under this bill. Now, they tell you also in this bill that you have to shorten the period of your tax declarations. From June, now they bring it to April. What are you telling me? Do they want to make it difficult for you so that then what can happen? These sort of changes should be interrogated by the honorable members of parliament. And you tell me, you have a 25% increase in the taxation of mobile phones, electronic gadgets, and they tell you that we will tax you this 25% the moment you activate this gadget. So you, as a consumer, you will have to pay 25% more. But who is a collector? I have to wonder. Is it the telecommunications company? The telecommunications company now become an extension of KRA. I don't know if that is the intendment or that is where we are headed. But the finance bill, just to disabuse BAMBA and they who are of this mind, that Kenyans are not interrogating this because, you know, there is exposure, and we hear that the CS in charge of the portfolio has been going around and exposing all these people. I mean,
he was at Jivanji once last year.
Last year.
He's been in different places.
Last year. But look, the Kenyan people are so oppressed. Now, I mean, financially, economically, they are like, excuse me, I mean, what more? And you look at the hole that has resulted in the disposable income vis-a-vis what has to be paid in terms of the public debt, accentuated, made worse by the oil problem, the fossil fuels. The Strait of Hormuz has resulted in this domino effect, and the government had a crisis about the energy and all of that, and they had to ensure that at least the increment is not commensurate with the market forces. So they tell us that they were forced to reduce the VAT. But look at the increment in the VAT. For instance, I've said about plastic products, 10%, and they have the cheek to tell you that between 14 shillings and 15 shillings per liter, we will add and impose on your fruit juices. 14 shillings to 15 shillings per liter. That means that if you've been buying your fruit juice at probably 500, and then you now have to add, by that amount, for every liter. What are you telling the average Kenyan person who has been enduring this economic hardship, that they will not be able to afford those? So you're driving a larger swath of Kenyans to the edge of these economic precipice, because you tell him or her that they depend on mitumba, used clothes, used shoes. And there's now a tax at the point of entry of that product, mitumba, or used items, that this person has to pay. And the spread is larger. That's what they want to do, to cushion themselves against the oil difficulty. The income that they had hoped to get from the sale of fuel. So in a nutshell, the quote-unquote lack of interest that FAMBA is talking about is because Kenyans know. I wholly disagree. It's simply because that, you know, people are fed up and tired, and they see, like you rightly say.
What do you think changed between 2024 and now? Because there was a lot of interest. There were young people who are even translating this bills into vernacular to enable other people to understand. All that seems to have stopped.
No, part of it is victimization. You saw this lady who was actually, arraigned in court. For what? For offering an email address that Kenyans could express themselves on and say, in furtherance of their right to public participation, in furtherance of their right to, governance. This is a direct involvement of the Kenyan people. And so there are those who now feel threatened and feel that very apprehensive, that the moment I do this expose, the moment I say this sort of thing, the government will come for me. And so they are there, but withholding that expose, because they become targets, direct targets, and no one wants to risk their lives and their families and their abduction as a result of that. Yes. But let me finalize by saying this, that there is so much that is hidden in this finance bill that unless Kenyans wake up and see, really, between now and 2027, life will become unbearably hard for more and more people. And what is the domino effect? We see an increase in crime of a violent nature, and we see more and more people becoming unemployed.
All right. Bonagakuya, this lack of interest could also be blamed on the National Assembly. The fact that even the Finance Bill of 2024, which was rejected by the President, we came later to learn that most of the provisions still made their way through some other bills in Parliament. And at the end of it, Kenyans wonder, okay, fine, even if we give our opinion and say we don't want this, it will still find its way through. Don't you think that that could in itself be a reason why people are no longer interested in the budget-making process? After all, our views will not be taken anywhere.
Edemore, what I would want to say is that the major cause of you not very concerned in this particular element is that remember the government came out in a very strong bang, and youth faced a lot of pain. And remember abductions and also kidnaps also, and also deaths occurred. And every human is a human and has to, when the fear is sold on that manner, most of them can buy that fear. And I would say that pressure and force from the national, from the state is the major fear to youth, because everybody fears for his life. And when you come out, and as Wakili has explained very well, you come out to take the public through, then you are targeted. Those targets are very clear. And
do you feel as a member of parliament that if at all you came out and talked about something that you feel should concern Kenyans, that you would also experience the same kind of
What
fear?
happens is that Idemoli, sometimes this country, if this country we had no those committed, forceful and fearless men, even the colony couldn't be still in this country. And therefore you need those people who are fearless. Some people like ourselves, we are at a state where there's nothing you fear goes. The next thing is death, and nothing beyond that. You have done your part, but not everybody can be able to wear that shoe. Also, it's a painful route. Remember, this government, even though it gives a lot of assurance that that kind of witch hunt is going to come to a stop, it is still happening. You still find that in Nyandarua, like a week ago, they all kidnapped a politician from that end who ended up at Suswa, facing a lot of painful pressure. So it is still there, and it's only those few who are strong enough can sustain that. Otherwise, I would say what the national government has been doing to these youths is to silence them and make sure that they are not anywhere, and target and directly targeting them. And if this
Mr. still has not answered your question. No. Your question to him is now, has he read the Finance Bill 2026 and he takes the podium?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you concerned that if at all, as a member of parliament, you or your colleagues, that if at all you went out and tried to explain to Kenyans some of the concerns you have about this budget, that you'd still be fearful for your own security?
What I can do, Demuri, I told you, and I will repeat that we have nothing to fear.
Okay.
I can take that mental, I can explain it anywhere. Like tomorrow, I'm in the public participation, I will do so. Because it will be Nairobi, and I'll participate, I'll be able to express myself, and therefore I will fear nothing.
All right.
And I think Honorable Gakuya has answered it so well, that MPs are approaching it the way they're approaching it without fearing anything, because it's their mandate as elected leaders to do that. And I want to emphasize on the reason as to why there is no kind of agitation like there was in 2024. Because at that time...
Not necessarily agitation. It's just the need to understand the process, yes, and probably even share the knowledge with other people who may not understand.
The difference is this. At that time, there was poor communication from the Treasury. There was poor communication, and several versions of the bill came out in the name of inciting people. There are people who deliberately wanted to incite people against the government. So they created different versions of the bill to incite the people against the government.
For the sake of your
And therefore, for that reason, when we have the new minister, the Honorable Mbadi, you've seen him communicating and saying this is the only version of the bill that is available to the public to read. So the difference is in the leadership of the Treasury, as far as I'm concerned.
So they've communicated better now, and Kenyans understand this.
Yes, and I think what we should be focusing on is on whether, because paying taxes is a must, and all countries pay taxes to run their affairs. So it's not wrong for the government to ask for the taxes to be paid. We should be concerned about whether these taxes are being used well or not. I think that should be the main point of concern. We cannot complain that people being taxed is wrong, for as long as it's being done in a fair and equitable manner as provided for in the Constitution.
For example, there's a fuel levy of 25 shillings a litre, and now the proposal is to have an extra 5% of that, a further 5 shillings of that securitized for another loan. Do you think Kenyans understand this and what impact it has?
No, I don't think so. You see,
because Fwamba says they understand it better because of better communication from Treasury.
He's speaking for his benefactors. So there is no way. He's saying that there's a different minister. Therefore, this minister has. That's all right. I mean, they are defending him. I wouldn't defend him because he has not told you about the tax policies that he's bringing. All that he did when he was introducing, they said, just about Mitumba. How about the plastics, for instance? Plastics we use all over, and then we have if you look at the memorandum in the Finance Bill 2026, you see now the tax of 10% they say there is because of climate change mitigation. Come on, climate change mitigation, and like I said, that they who are preaching the climate change mitigation are not they themselves mitigating to the degree that you're mitigating. Your own people are engaged in this self-destruction. So the tax policies that he's supposed to, by law, to have now told the Kenyan people, by the way, this 25% tax on your gadgets will be imposed because we want to do this and we want to do that. And this is the end game. This is what we want to achieve.
Wamba believes that communication has been made.
It hasn't been made. It hasn't. The tax policies on all those areas?
He has to communicate
we don't have it.
in the layman's language.
Has he? That's a question.
And that's what he did yesterday.
Oh.
He was communicating in a language that is understood by every person.
On the news bulletin that we just watched.
But by the way, again, why are we so much concerned about this taxation regime under President William Ruto? Yet, in 2003, when President Mwai Kibaki took over, it was a patriotic duty. In fact, the call was kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. So our interest was
during that
to
time.
develop the country. And that's the kind of patriotism that we need to encourage.
There was no looting. There was no looting.
You cannot quantify and justify what is looting and what is not. There was Anglo-leasing during Kibaki's time. So why do we have double standards that we want to collect taxes during Kibaki's time?
Understanding the budget, because
time you are complaining and saying that you don't want to pay taxes.
Get me right. My conversation is about the level of understanding of the budget-making process. Are you saying that Kenyans should not bother?
I've not said that.
I've not finding out what happened.
I've not said that. I've said Kenyans are getting to levels of understanding because of the kind of communication from the government that is happening that never happened in the previous arrangement. So there's a difference. So based on that kind of trust, Kenyans are confident that we are moving towards the right direction.
All right.
Because budget making process is not just done by every Tom, Dick and Harry. It is done by experts and explained to wananchi to understand what is inside the budget.
So as a mwananchi, do you understand the budget estimates of the year 2026, 2027? Have you bothered to find out what taxation measures are being proposed through the Finance Bill 2026? What is your feeling? The National Assembly has invited Kenyans who have opinions on this to send their memoranda between yesterday and the 25th of this month, at least in as far as the Finance Bill is concerned, on the taxation measures. Also, public participation on the budget estimates, Bonagakuya says, is ongoing. Yes. Have you given your memoranda or your comments or opinions on the same?
That's what should be interrogated.
That's the question we're asking today. My conversation was about the level of awareness by Kenyans. It's a question you need to ask yourself as a civic duty. Do you understand the budget-making process, especially in this year's process? As we wrap up this State of the Nation debate, I want us to talk about some politics. On Thursday this week, we're going to have the first of two parliamentary by-elections and two, civic level by-elections. Emuru Adikir comes up on Thursday. DCP recording impressive numbers where they did not expect. But the one in Olkalau after the party primaries this past weekend creating even more discussion. What is the feeling on the ground, at least from the side of DCP, following the kind of debate we're having in Emuru Adikir ahead of the by-election on Thursday, and what happened with the party primaries?
What I would say is that remember this country, and not only this country, the country is led by what we call leadership. And in this country, we have what we call multi-party democracy. And multi-party democracy tells that the multi-party came, it replaced a single party. Those days when it was just a single party Kanu, which had a say. And the power to decide, the power to choose, is power based on the what we call the people, and therefore we say the first challenge is that the people are the key because they are the sovereign, and the right to choose a candidate is theirs. So as we move to these two by-elections, it is true that if you will give people of Emuru Adikir freedom to choose, and give them free, fair, and verifiable election, where no legal mechanisms will apply. I think they will they make their case, and they will choose their candidate very democratically. And I think as of now, depending on the indicators are very clear that the competition is quite impressive, and the chances are that if people of Emuru Adikir are given free, fair, level playing ground. They make their next choice of a candidate. The same case appears to what you call Orkarao. Orkarao, we witnesses two nominations. First on Friday led by the UDA. And we found the numbers, how they came out to make their choices. And we realized, all of us were able to witness that the first day, the queue was too short and small, and therefore the people didn't came out in numbers. And by the date of Saturday, the queues were too long, and the numbers also were very pressing. And you realize that over 23,000 voters came out to nominate their candidates. That tells you
the DCP candidate.
The DCP candidate. That tells you. It tells you what the crowd is, because ours is to assess and evaluate the crowd through those kind of forums, and it can tell you that people of Orkarao were still there on Friday, but they decided to keep off. And
so you're very confident about the prospects of DCP, both in Emoro Dikir and Olkalau?
It's not me, but actually...
Based on that data?
Based on that data.
Yes.
The data is telling us there's high chances that the people of Orkarao will decide, already they have decided a candidate through DCP, and I can tell you, if things will go as they are, without any state influence, things will resort to DCP candidates as a winner. The same case in Emoro Dikir.
There's something that came out in this debate, and this is the fact that these by-elections, they do not necessarily produce what the voter wants. That a by-election mid-term is more usually about the national contests. It's about UDA and the presidency and DCP and the United Opposition, what they want, as opposed to what would happen during a general election, where focus is on individual constituencies. Do you agree that this contest, both in Emuru Dikir and Olkalau, is a contest for the big titans at the national level, and they don't even get to discuss the issues at the constituency?
Yes and no. But first of all, I want to react to what Honorable Gakuya just said.
Even as you react, that yes and no, I'll need you to expound on it as well.
Yes, in such a way that people use that as an experimental ground. Different political forces go to the ground to fight. In fact, all politicians from both divides usually get involved in such processes, mid-term by-elections like they did in Mbeere North. The attention of the whole country, including media houses like TV47, will be covering such events more seriously than, and very specifically from a national perspective, than they'll do during a general election. And no, because even locally there are competitions. Sometimes it will be dependent on the candidate's own strengths and weaknesses. Now, going back to Honorable Gakuya's point, which I really want to react to, is that there has been information that the processes of nomination have not been free and fair. Some of these positions have been pre-decided here in Nairobi. And if you look at the nomination process of UDA and DCP, you see that UDA was doing things exactly the way IEBC would do. But if you look at what DCP was doing, they were doing the things the KANU style, the old styles, including stuffing ballot boxes so that you end up having a lot of numbers of alleged voter turnout, which is not true. You see, that's the case. That has been the news everywhere and all over, including some acts of drama around some of the politicians, like Honorable Gakuya mentioned, one of the politicians kidnapped himself, typical of most of the DCP people. So such kinds of things are supposed to inform people that there is no transparency on the side of DCP in terms of the nomination process, as opposed to UDA. So you cannot say that the numbers of UDA were lower
was not a
than DCP because he was an interested party. He wanted to get publicity. He wanted publicity around that area, including wanting to be known. You know, politicians do a lot of things, especially within the DCP ranks.
To what consequence? Because he says he's not a candidate.
I think he intends to run for a seat in future, so he wants to be known And now we are discussing him.
How is that assisting the credibility of an election or the coming out of voters?
I'm just trying to exemplify the kind of drama around it, including that kind of balloting, because it was pre-planned. You remember the conversation that the numbers were going to be higher than the UDA ones was projections. They did projections on the basis of what UDA.
So you're saying that the DCP party primaries in Olkalau, there was ballot stuffing.
In fact, it is.
Increase the numbers.
In fact, the person who won that seat, he said to have been working with the Gachagua directly. So he was pre-decided. He was known to the leader of the party than those other fellows.
Do you have any fact for Amba?
That information is in public.
Because you cannot be
people who come from those areas have been sharing that information. They have been saying that individual who won the seat, who won the nomination.
So the numbers in the DCP primaries
they were inflated. They
were inflated.
They are not true. The UDA one was electronic, just the way we do with the IBC. This other one had no measures of credibility at all.
But Idimuni, I would like to say very, very short that, in fact, even in a general election, remember, we have what we call gadgets, just to make sure that the gadget is able to establish your name and as a voter. But you have to tick from a ballot and stuff a ballot to a ballot box. Have we changed that format? So that in the DCP or Karao nominations, we did it opposite. We did it exactly the same, was we used what we call register, IBC register, versus now that paper ballot voting.
And the identification of voters was electronic.
Of course.
The winner was pre-decided. The numbers and projections were
you're saying it in absolutes, and I'm wondering, do you have any proof?
There's information all over, everywhere, including
that cannot be proven.
Including those people who are rigged out. That's what they have said.
Anybody, we are in a state of bloggers, which can prove anything. Yes.
Wakili.
It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that he owes an apology to the Olkalau people, because you could see the people showed up. They turned up in their tens of thousands.
You could see them in lanes.
Yes, but by comparison, in contrast, the UDA polling stations were empty. I mean, like, look, all he needs to do is just go and review that evidence.
It depends on the time.
Hold on. I mean, I let you speak. You see, so and don't get stung. The whole issue is that the UDA brigade is unable to accept the fact that its popularity on the ground has faded. It's withered and probably...
Which ground? We are talking about ground in particular.
I'll let you speak, even though I wanted to let my horses on you. The whole episode of the nomination exemplifies the failure of UDA among the electorate. I mean, this is something in it. You cannot force the electorate to love your party, even though you're ruling. I mean,
so you do agree that that contest is more about the national level politics and not really about the constituents in
largely, because I say largely, and there's an element of the local politics, because the local politics, for instance, is Olkalau. You will see that the people who elected the DCP person had this array of choices, and they were able then to demonstrate that this is the most popular.
There are 9 candidates who are competing.
Absolutely. You see, so the array of candidates gave the electorate the local, quote-unquote, choice, while at the same time, the voices contrasting between UDA and DCP were, visibly heard and seen. And I mean, pili sio mwasha si. Mbona hivi? Just hold your horses. Let me finish. I let you speak, and you had.
I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance.
The lessons of Mberenoth appear, in my view, not to have been learned by DCP or they who are in the opposition. Because if I were them, I would be on the lookout. Real lookout. Why? Because in Emurua Dikiri, there have been these voices that there is campaigning being done at night. And in fact, the IABC came out yesterday and said that, look, we have timelines for you to campaign. It's between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then there were those on the UDA front saying that, look, we let people work during the day, and then at night we go to, excuse me, door to door at night, you are campaigning. What if you are actually there getting their IDs and giving them money? We don't know. So that is illegal. And I think the DCP people who are, confident that their candidate is out there, high and dry, and probably given the buoyance in Okalau, and what they saw is that the figures over there. But remember, you have a wounded UDA, totally annihilated, and they feel the sting because this is nearer to 2027 than bare enough. And because of that, it has absolutely more significance to them. The loss in both constituencies, it will have a larger impact. And so therefore, they will go full-fledged to ensure that they do not lose. So if I were a DCP, I'd have my eyes on the ground, and I would ensure that there's absolutely no shenanigans being played out. I would even ensure that I have all the materials ready for any legal contest, if need be. Because the people are speaking there. And the UDA people go into those camps and you see them, they are leaving and then they're showing you, that is one. And they're donning the UDA attire. So as I conclude, so you can see on the ground, and this is to affirm your position, it's still that voice. Because you see, when you have at Emura Dikil or even in Okalau, the donning of that one finger or the flashing of the one finger in, they say, one term. The
and
one
it's no longer
term,
about the constituency.
It's not about the constituency. Yeah. So let's agree about that. And so the local politics, excuse me, is being subsumed and merging with the national politics to the point that the local elector wants to send a voice resounding, excuse me, to the powers that be, that look, we want to announce to you that your candidate is sending a message to you that we still are one term.
And I have about 4 minutes only for your final comments.
Just accept that.
Final comments.
There's a very wrong perception that every time we talk about the ground, the likes of Honorable Gakuya and Wakili Kinyanjui here think about Mount Kenya. They don't think anymore.
No. Please don't accuse me of that.
And they have been tutored very well by their party leader, Honorable
Fred, ask him to retract that.
He's the one
and
who
apologize. I'm very nationalistic.
I'm very nationalistic. I agree that you're nationalistic.
Yes.
But when it comes to projections and mention about the ground, you are referring to Mount Kenya.
No.
When the elections will come in 2027,
I think that should be retracted. That's not fair at all.
Retracted, but okay.
No. You cannot qualify. You just retract it because that's not fair.
He's a nationalist. He's a nationalist.
Yes.
But my argument is that every time the mention of the ground is put across, is in reference to Mount Kenya.
How about
I was talking about Emuru Dikil.
What about
Emuru? It was by the way. And when they make projections, remember the other day of this perception that when you talk about
correct that.
a certain village supporting a certain presidential candidate, you assume that the whole country is thinking that way. Now here's the experiment, that if you talk about Okalau in the coming by-election, it should be assumed that for DCP to look like it's making sense, they're supposed to get 100% of the vote because I've been claiming to have the mountain on their back. So if they fail to get 100% of the vote, it means that everything they have been saying is hot air. And that is very dangerous to the arrangement of the opposition, because the assumption is that the so-called ground, which is Mount Kenya in particular, the assumption by their camp is that it will go to the opposition. So if UDA manages to get any vote, and so far through the credible election nomination of UDA of over 8,000 votes in Okalau, if that is to go by, then it means that whatever the opposition is relying on in Mount Kenya is hot air.
All right.
I would completely distance myself from his sentiments. And I would want Wamba to understand that even in Kisumu, when Baba was alive, there is always votes for a contestant, whether a presidential candidate or whether who. And we have seen, even those areas, other parties winning from those regions purported to be the sole Baba areas. And in this particular case, I would like to tell you, in Orkarao is no difference, because we are in a multi-party era, and you're going to find many parties, not only the DCP in the contest, and all those parties are campaigning to a win. So you cannot tell us that we should win in 100%. You have to leave to the people to make their choices. And a win over 1 vote is a strong win. And I would just tell you, a failure by a single vote is a failure. So let us agree that we cannot come to demonize Mount Kenya region as if Mount Kenya is quite special. It's not part of Kenya. It is part of Kenya, and we are saying, even though, because last time you remember, we were able to secure an MCA candidate in Narok. That was not much.
But that's their argument. That's their argument.
We were able
with an ethnic.
We were able,
I have a minute, and I want you to
yes,
give
we
your
were also able to
So-
secure an MCA in Western region. They did it still. That does not sometimes be mudsliding. That's
all right.
Unfortunately, in the political realm, they engage in these sort of personal ad hominem attacks when they lack the ideas. And you can see the president gets on the rooftop of his vehicle every other day, and he's repeating the same story and the same accusations. You know, these are fools. These are people without brains. These are people without ideas. Everywhere he goes, that's what he does. And launching a market, and he says he's launching a market for the umpteenth time. When the road that he's supposed to have done, I don't know, to Wajir, to whatever, you know, it is stuck. Even the bare maintenance of it so that it is passable, it's not something being done. So for him, it is out there, and this is the problem that we have with our politics, that we need to deliver results that are tangible to the Kenyan people, other than promising. I would rather that he didn't promise anything to the Kenyan people. Look at the Kibaki regime. The Kibaki regime, Kibaki was able to articulate ideas more in a practical sense that the Kenyans found resonating with them. And that's why they were patriotic, just to answer Famba, because he's wondering, why aren't Kenyans, you know, acting that way? Kenyans cannot act that way because you're selling politics that is dead.
All right.
Redundant. Come on. I mean, you need to get to the people and know that this is what they want. They're not asking you to try and convince them. You already have that podium. What will you do new for them in 5 years that you haven't done for them in these 4 years that we are facing? I mean, this is the twilight of your tenure. Wind up.
All right. Let me take sample some of the views of people, because we asked online on Facebook. Do you think these mini polls, the by-elections, are a true test of public mood ahead of the next general election? And people are saying, Nicodemus Mainge Mwania says, whether true or not, the voter who voted in the 2022 election is totally different from the one who will vote next year. Awareness levels are too high, coupled with technological advancement. Wanyonyi Sa says, nope, it seems as though the true participants only come out on the actual voting day. The participants in the mini polls always show anti-government trends until the same government remains in power after the general election and leaves us wondering. Mutukutu Idiama says, not really, those are very minimal spots. Lazaro Luanda says, okay, I didn't get that one. Mukale Domi says, not at all, waves always change within no time. Those being elected now risk not being re-elected within those few months. Probably we agree. Mbwera says, no, like Mbere North, it was stolen. I don't know. Adamson, 60% yes. Onchiri Steve, kuna watu wanaongea huku online, but ikifika election day, kuna mtu wala kupiga kura. And Means Shaban says, nope. Fabiano says yes. Well, thank you so much for your feedback, and continue watching TV47 Breakfast and interacting with us on all our social media pages. Once again, thank you, gentlemen. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Fwamba, NC Fwamba, political analyst, and Wakili Harrison Kenyanjui for your time at TV47. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much.
After the break, we switch gears. Anodida will be having another conversation, including on matters health, so do stand by for that. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Good morning.